Hello, everyone. It's full time. We are looking back at Champions League match day 2. That's a big number in the Champions League group stages. If you win 3 games in the Champions League, you're going to the round of 16. That's a fact. That's a fact. So there are 4 teams that are already off to 2 wins, a perfect start, 2 wins out of 2. And that's going to go a long way in their prospects. By the way, in case you didn't know, those 4 teams are PSG, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, and... That's right, it's Ajax. Correct. Keep an eye on Ajax. I'm not going to talk too much about Ajax, but keep an eye on them. They get it. There's something that clicks in these teams, and all of a sudden you know how to navigate these tournaments. Ajax is one of those. So, I was actually in New York. It was wonderful to spend a couple times in the Big Apple, doing a little networking, seeing some people. Felt good. Quick street. Hit the subway. While I was there, I did have I was at an all-gender, had some great food for starters, but there was an all-gender bathroom, and I went in, toilet seat was down, I lifted the toilet seat, finished, washed my hands, and then when I walked out, the lady walked in, and she goes, "Hey, why don't you put the toilet seat down?" I was a little bit taken back. I go, I kind of forgot about all of that, and then I go, why do I have to pick it up and put it down? But as I was walking away, I realized, should just put it down, so we'll keep that going. All-gender bathrooms, great idea, by the way. They move very smoothly. I'm not here to talk about that either. I was going to actually record this on the airplane, and I started talking, and there was a very nice lady next to me, kept interrupting me. I was trying to hide that. It was a bad idea to try to record this on an airplane. Let's just put it that way. But she was talking about her Shih Tzu, which she had under the airplane chair, Shih Tzu, and it was a dog that was the one that breed at Westminster, apparently. I don't believe it, but I saw the dog. Good-looking dog. All right, so always some interesting stories from New York. But let's talk about the Champions League. And I had said there were 2 teams that I thought could win the whole thing, Manchester City and Liverpool. And I'm going to add to that list. I'm going to add it by 2. Not just because of what we saw over the last 2 days, but because of the last couple of weeks, the body of work from these 2 teams. One will not surprise you, one will. I'll also give you my thoughts on the Americans in the Champions League, or one American, because Christian Pulisic, not involved. You know, I'll give you thoughts about that. Jesse Marsch was, and what a triumph. But let's start with that list I was going to get to. And the first team is obviously Bayern Munich. They go to Tottenham Hotspur, and they score 7 goals, demolishing. That was humbling for Spurs. You see them, they couldn't get off that field quickly enough. 7 goals. The goals were amazing. They all seemed to just fly off the feet of the Bayern players. Kimmich, Lewandowski's goal at the end of the first half. Serge Gnabry, who did something historical. Prior to his performance in the victory over Spurs, only 10 players had ever achieved this, and that was a perfect score by French publication L'Equipe, who are very stingy with their player rankings, but they gave Gnabry a 10. He has arrived. It was unbelievable watching him play. And Bayern Munich, which looked like they were figuring it out, and I was watching Philippe Coutinho, and I just keep thinking this was a guy that was kind of let off the Barcelona plate. Really, he wasn't going to play there, but he's like, you can have him. And he is incredible. Part of that well-oiled machine for Bayern Munich that in a few weeks seems to have figured out the young players have really come through, led by Gnabry. Those young players have come through, and I think they can be put on that first line. The other team that I would put on that first line, and may surprise you, Paris Saint-Germain. PSG has been a defensive beast. Not allowed a goal in 8 games in all competitions. One of those games is they beat Real Madrid in the Champions League. And now they go to Istanbul and beat Galatasaray 1-0 without conceding a goal. So we talked about in a previous episode about Idrissa Gueye and the excellent defense they put together. Angel Di Maria being a factor. Mauro Icardi playing some big moments. You notice I haven't said Neymar or Kylian Mbappe because they have not been a factor in this start for PSG, but they are going to be. They are going to be a factor, and it seems like things are really happy there. And if they're not a factor, they are still a very formidable team right now. You can't score on them. Look at these 2 results. I know Real Madrid's not the high level. We saw that as well as they struggled here in round 2, in match day 2, but PSG, I think the French league will be a little more competitive, which will help them along the way. And Neymar and Mbappe go, this is cool. And who knows? That would be such a great story to see them reach those heights. Still a long way to go, but I'm very optimistic with what I have seen thus far. Let us get to the Americans. Christian Pulisic, frustrated with his time at Chelsea, said, yeah, I was frustrated, but I'll continue to play hard. I cannot confirm this, but after saying that, all of a sudden he is out of the 18 for Chelsea. Seemingly, Frank Lampard didn't care for that. You got to send a message, if he hasn't already. I've talked about this, and I always wished when I watched Americans in Europe that it would be easy for one of them. One would go there, and they get moved right and go, hey. But it never happens. And I believe a large part is because they're American. And it didn't happen for Christian Pulisic. And should he be in the starting 11 for Chelsea? Probably not. But when you drop off the 18, I feel this patronizing effect from Frank Lampard. There's a lot of kids there. I'm sure they're not all wonderful all the time, and I don't think they get that. But Christian Pulisic jumped through the hoops. I'm just used to it because I see it all the time. And you could argue with me and say he's not at the level of Mason Mount and Willian and Pedro. And I'm like, he's your record signing. You don't treat a record signing like that. All right. But there was some good news in the American front, and that is Jesse Marsch, who did have to jump through a lot of hoops, as all Americans do. He had to go across, get an assistant job in the Red Bull system, and then get the job at Salzburg, and now get into the Champions League, where he won in the first match day. And here in match day 2, losing to Liverpool 3-0. And Liverpool I will retain at that top line that I talked about earlier because they're still very good. This was very weird. They're up 3-0. Salzburg scores 3 unanswered. At the end of the third goal, Jesse Marsch runs up to celebrate with his team. And why wouldn't you? Think about what's going through this man's mind. He was a kid in Wisconsin growing up, and now he's a Champions League manager, seeing his team come from 3 goals down to tie a game against the reigning champs at Anfield. He was getting some shtick from the English press, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to. It reeks of hypocrisy. But anyway, I won't get into that. So, but I was just blown away by that image. Liverpool would go on to win 4-3, but Jesse Marsch is onto something and breaking new road for all Americans. And as an American broadcaster in this business, and trust me when I say this, I've had to jump through hurdles, and I still do. To see that means a lot for me. It means a lot for everyone, every player, every coach. So Jesse, thank you for what you are doing. It's very important work. And maybe we won't have these discussions, but you could say I'm just an overreacting American. But I'm very happy to see this. And it was all well earned in that case. All right, so I don't think I should take too much more of your time. Just a reminder to subscribe to my YouTube page. That would be Max Bredos, and we'll continue to be with you through the Champions League and the full time that I usually do on the weekends. A lot to talk about. Ajax again, and the unbeaten teams in the Champions League. We look for Red Star Belgrade. Red Star Belgrade, getting it done.